Hi everyone, I'm Mike Smith and I'm here to bring you the exclusive footage for slimgamer.com of the Eurogamer.net Expo 2012 right here in London, Earls Court. The Eurogamer Expo 2012 offers to bring you some of the most highly anticipated games of the year, including games such as Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Dishonored and of course Halo 4. It is also the first time that the Wii U, Nintendo's latest console, will be playable in the UK. Moving around the show floor, I'll bring you footage of all the most exciting games on show. I also have exclusive footage of games such as Tomb Raider, and I have an exclusive interview with both the developers of Tomb Raider and also the guys from Hitman Absolution. I also get a chance to speak with the bosses of OnLive to talk about the future of the cloud gaming service. So keep an eye on the website, slimgamer.com, for all the latest videos and articles from the Eurogamer Expo. Over the last few years, the Eurogamer Expo has become one of the biggest and most successful video game trade shows in the UK, with publishers like Namco, EA and Ubisoft all showcasing their latest titles to both fans and press. But it's not all about the games, however. The Eurogamer Expo has also been used as a platform for companies to showcase new hardware. Last year saw a showing of PlayStation's latest portable handheld, the PS Vita, and this year presented people with an early glimpse of Nintendo's Wii U. Developer sessions also play a big part of the expo, with people such as Peter Molyneux giving us an insight into the 22 Cans Project Curiosity, Frank O'Connor of 343 Industries showed off Halo 4, and Hideo Kojima, the mastermind behind the Metal Gear franchise, gives a rare talk to his UK fans. One of the most anticipated games on the show floor is a reboot of the classic Tomb Raider series. I got a chance to sit down with the senior art director Brian Horton and talk about Lara's latest adventure. From what we've seen from the demo on the show floor, how did it feel to go into Lara's past and sort of have almost carte blanche, if you will, to create this story?
We have a tremendous amount of respect for the franchise. What Core has done to bring it to pass, and Crystal Dynamics has taken that franchise with a lot of reverence. This is the first time we've really had an opportunity to reimagine it fully, to really look at it from the ground up. Is what we do with Tomb Raider and Lara Croft specifically. So it was an honor. I've been at the studio now for 3 years, and it was my charge to come in, work with a very talented group of artists and designers, and come up with a new vision for Lara Croft and Tomb Raider that was going to fit the sensibilities of an origin story and a survival story. Those are the two things that we wanted to do, and everything you see on the screen sort of comes from those basic core tenets.
Excellent stuff. Now, obviously, there is a little bit of controversy in regards to some of the content in Tomb Raider. Now, there is one part that is controversial in particular that has been publicised. Are there more controversial moments in the game, or is it just a case of is that controversial moment and then it's just more about Lara surviving the ordeals?
Well, you played the extended demo,
yes.
So you had an opportunity to see the context of the scene. This is her first kill. It's an emotionally impactful moment, and we feel it's done with a maturity, but it's also, in context, it's something you would imagine could happen, in a situation like this. But I think what you saw there was a pivotal point in her character arc, and I think that what we did there was probably one of the most emotionally charged moments we have in the game. But there are other moments where it escalates, but she becomes a hero. The whole story is about her, coming in inexperienced. She's 21 years old on her first adventure, and this is very early in the game. And by the time she evolves, she becomes this hero, this Lara Croft, Tomb Raider that we could more recognize. So I think what you're going to see is this a story about empowerment and seeing her grow.
Excellent stuff. What's been the most difficult aspect of creating the game?
I would say we wanted to striving for excellence. It's so hard to make a great game, and what we wanted to make sure is we had a foundation, something that from the very beginning, like everything about the game, from the way it controls, the way her character evolves, the challenges that she would go through, the fact that we wanted not only her to grow as a character from a story perspective, but also the abilities to progress. All of these things, these systems, were all built from the ground up. So the goal was, how do we make a Tomb Raider that feels like a Tomb Raider game, but reimagined for a whole new audience? So in a way, even though it is Tomb Raider, it's almost like a new IP for Crystal Dynamics. We treated it in the same way. So it took a lot of time, a lot of iteration to try to find what our formula was for this reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise.
Excellent. Do you think this would be an idea to go back in the past and do more of Lara's past, or?
We think this is
in this sort of series?
This is a good starting point for us, and we definitely think it's something, a foundation that we can build on. So this is our one, chance to really tell that pivotal moment of when Lara Croft is on our first adventure, and there's more adventures to come.
So are there any other details you can give us about Tomb Raider?
Yeah, so Tomb Raider is going to be coming out on Xbox 360, PS3, and PC March 5th, 2013. So I hope you guys can check it out.
That's about it, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you very much for allowing us to interview today.
Thank
It's
you.
been an absolute pleasure. I'm very much looking forward to playing the game again on the show floor.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Make sure you check out our exclusive preview of Tomb Raider up on the site soon. Thank you. Also on hand to share some insights into the development process was Christian Elverdam, the gameplay director for IO Interactive and one of the men responsible for bringing us the latest iteration of the Hitman franchise, Hitman Absolution. So the footage we've seen on the show floor so far, it's very impressive, first of all. There's quite a lot of aspects of action in what is primarily a stealth-based game. Do you feel that takes away anything from the previous stealth-based games?
Not really. I think a lot of people talk about stealth and action in a Hitman game and in a Hitman context. I think what we did with Absolution, which is also a part of the old games, is we're really big on the choice. So it's up to you what you want to choose. So for instance, in what we're showing in the King of Chinatown, the hit you have on in the King in the middle of the pagoda is that you can go for a silent assassin, which means that you cannot be seen by anyone, you cannot kill anyone but your target, and you have to escape with the world completely unaware that you were there. But between that and then going in full-blown with action, there is actually now a vast spectrum of opportunity that wasn't necessarily there in the old games. So as an example, if someone actually finds out that you're 47 and he wants to attack you or arrest you, well, I guess I already said one thing that's new in the game, they will try to arrest you before they actually shoot you, which is new. So that's already adding a little bit of nuance. But also, even if he escalates into combat and he's actually trying to kill you, if you manage to kill him before either the noise or the word spread that there is a combat situation going on, the situation will actually contain itself. So in that sense, going back to your original question, we didn't really make the game more or less stealth or action oriented. What we really wanted to say is whatever happens, it should be your choice, and whatever choice you make, there should be a cool and nuanced reaction to that, where we felt that in the old games we were maybe a little bit short on some of the scenarios. It also goes for when you make noise, for instance. If you do an unsilenced shot, the AI would actually react, I heard a shot, they will tell you that they did, they will run out, and you will see that they have their guns out. If you do another distraction, maybe you throw a brick or something like that, they'll be out there talking about that they heard something, but they won't have their guns out and won't necessarily be as suspicious of the situation. So again, a lot of nuance.
Like I said, there's a lot of nuances in regards to how the crowd reacts. There's in the King of Chinatown level, there's a lot of people on screen at one point. How difficult is it to get those people to react successfully, react like a real crowd?
Well, it's pretty complicated.
Yeah.
Building the crowds is we looked at a lot of the things that we felt were central to the experience of any Hitman game, and saying, okay, when is the experience you have something you feel like this is only in a Hitman game. And one of the things we really looked at was how we did crowds in Blood Money, where we got a lot of praise for especially the Mardi Gras level, which featured a lot of people, but it was also apparent that these were more like an ambience in the level, where what we really wanted for Absolution was to say, okay, since we're building new technology and we have the chance to do it, we will make sure that the crowd has quite advanced intelligence, and intelligence both means that they can see you. If a body drops in the middle of a crowd, for some reason, they will actually spread out and they will alert guards. We had a very cool incident of a contract where someone actually solved a contract by actually producing his weapon, which will then the civilians will run for help, and the help that came was actually a target in a contract. So that was one way of isolating him. So you can get all these weird combinations, and that's because the crowd on an intelligence, a brain level is actually more advanced than it was before. But then obviously, if you look at it, it's also how we build the shaders and how much variation we can actually get in terms of geometry and how they walk around was also challenging, definitely.
Cool, excellent stuff. I've noticed on the demo on the show floor, again, King of Chinatown, there's quite a few, playing it a couple of times, there's quite a few environmental assassination moments where you can, without revealing too many spoilers, you can drop something on someone or you can set something up. Now, they don't seem to be massively signposted? Is there going to be a lot more environmental assassination situations in the different levels?
I think that's very much a part of, again, when we talk about what is a Hitman game and when do you know that you're playing a Hitman game and not anything else, that's definitely when you're looking for all these more or less sinister accident kills. And I mean, in King of Chinatown we have 12 different ways that we actually compile into challenges. So kind of to notify you that there are actually there. But we did two things to make you aware of them, because we didn't want to give them away entirely. I think a part of the charm is that you go around and snoop around and then you figure out, hey, maybe I can use this for something.
Yeah.
But we did two things. We did the challenge system, where if you enter the notebook, you can see all the challenges for any level. And these are actually there to make you aware of all the different opportunities you have, and obviously also to enhance the replay value, since if you complete a challenge, that will permanently affect your score in that checkpoint. But if you look at King of Chinatown, you could actually get inspiration for some of these ways of killing the king. Then also our new instinct mode is also a very good helper. It will not tell you what's going on, but it will give you small indications of objects of interest, we call it. So so in that way you can also, you cannot see what it is, but you say, there's something over in that corner, let me go and check out if I can figure out how it works.
Okay, cool. Now Hitman's quite it's one of the games that's easy to play but hard to master, basically. It's not a game you can just simply pick up and play from any skill level. Is there going to be like a gradient tutorial for new players to the series?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think in actually one of the things we did accomplish is actually that when we have people in, both in Copenhagen and in the US, we did a lot of testing of the game all of the time, even in the early stages, to make sure that we were getting good feedback on what we were doing. And one of the things is actually we wanted at the base level, we actually wanted the controls to feel like you could pick them up and start working with it. And then obviously the super skillful silent assassin runs will require you to replay the levels and understand how they're kind of hinged together, if you will. So that's actually one of the strong points, I think, with Absolution, that on one level it's fairly easy, that you grasp the controls, you grasp the cover system. Instinct allows you a little bit of insight as to where are people actually, instead of looking at an abstract map, you can actually relate it to the game world. But that's also where the rest is left to you to kind of make your own decisions on how to approach the game.
Okay, excellent stuff. Finally, out of the King of Chinatown level, what's your favourite assassination attempt?
There are quite a few. I think that it's always sometimes it depends on what mood you're in.
Yeah.
I really like the one where you find the poisonous fugu fish. Then you dress as a vendor, and then you approach him. He will abuse you a little bit for coming with, this coffee better not be cold. Yeah. And then you poison his coffee, and he will it seems like he's sleeping to everyone else. He's obviously dead, and you're free to walk away. And that's obviously one of the silent assassin playthroughs. Yeah. But playing around with the remote explosives is also fun. Some of the cops in Chinatown are dirty. They're working for the King of Chinatown. And part of what they have is a contraband weapon stash, which is you can obviously find. Yeah. And part of that stash is some remote explosives. And using them is also quite fun.
Excellent. That definitely sounds like some of the aspects of a true Hitman game, true 47 style.
Definitely.
I'm going to look out for those next time I play on the show floor.
Cool.
So yeah, thank you very much for joining us
today. Thank you too.
Excellent stuff.
It's a pleasure.
Looking forward to playing again. Cool. Keep an eye out for our exclusive preview of Hitman Absolution. Thanks so much. Last year at the Eurogamer Expo saw the launch of the OnLive cloud gaming service in the UK. With their recent financial difficulties, I was excited and eager to sit down with their new general manager, Bruce Grove, and ask some all-important questions. So first things first, Bruce, thank you very much for agreeing to do this interview. Obviously, I think the most important question that people have got in regards to the OnLive service is what actually happened with OnLive?
Just about 5-6 weeks ago, OnLive in the US went through a very painful process. It was called an ABC, Assignment for the Benefits of Creditors. Basically, OnLive reached a point where financially it wasn't able to sustain itself and move forward. And so, it's a process that's fairly unique to California. It's a form of allowing all of the assets to be acquired very quickly and allow the company itself to not stop operating and not stop the business. So a new owner stepped in, a guy by the name of Gary Lauder. He's a long-time VC and he's been in Silicon Valley. Long history of investing in IP and digital streaming technologies, so very familiar with the media space. And he was able to step in and at very short notice basically acquire all of the assets, everything that was OnLive, all of the IP, and keep the company running. And since then what we've been doing is going through a transition. We've hired back a lot of the original employees. We're now refocusing what the company was. We've had to restructure a lot of our deals, a lot of the way we were doing business in the past, and now move forward, hopefully a leaner, and having come through this, be able to really build the business that we've always dreamed we could build.
Okay, so in regards to the dream of the business that you've got, has the last few weeks changed the overall mission statement of OnLive at all?
I don't think so much as changed the mission statement, it has changed the focus. It's allowed us to really start to think critically about what it is we're going to do to build this business and bring it correctly to consumers. When we first launched and when we first announced, we had to get over this hump of telling people what is cloud gaming. Nobody knew what it was. Having told people what it was, then nobody believed us. So we were constantly going uphill and dealing with all of these learnings, explaining to people what it is, getting past the skepticism. We were building hardware, we were building data centers, we were building all the software to support it, we were working with publishers to bring games on board. It was a massive, massive undertaking for a small company. And if you were a large company, you'd have looked at what we did and thought, wow, that's going to need a lot of people. So really, we just finally got to that point where everything that had gone before became too much. But now as we look at all of that, we have everything we built, we have that foundation, and the mission that was always to bring games to every platform is now something we can realise. We're in a much better place to do that.
Excellent stuff. So in regards to the different publishers, obviously you've had to restructure a lot of your contracts and stuff with the publishers, or I'm assuming you have had to. I've noticed that a couple of publishers have given you some top-line games such as Darksiders 2, Square Enix has given you Sleeping Dogs, that sort of thing. Do you find it's easier now to get games from publishers, or is it the same uphill, almost the uphill battle that you had, this time last year?
It's not, that hasn't changed so much yet, but one of the things that is changing is we're looking at ways to make it easier to bring content onto the platform. So we had developed an SDK, we developed how do you bring the games and the titles on, and what we want to do now is make that much simpler. We want to be able to get closer, if not straight on to the day and date releases. We want to be able to make it much easier for publishers to do the port themselves and for the developers to do the port themselves. We want to make it really easy, for example, for an indie to just look at OnLive as a place where they can just push a game to. And so things like that. And if we can get to that point, which is a big part of the focus right now internally, and not if, when, we know we can get to that. When we get to that point, what you should start to see is titles coming on much faster and with less of the sort of backroom process that was required before.
Okay, excellent. With the restructuring of the contracts, etc., do you think the pricing structure of OnLive will change at all? Obviously, you're talking about purely digital streaming, not physical copies, not downloading to a hard drive or anything like that. So, do you think that will change at all?
I think that would change because the industry will change. One of the things that we've been dealing with right from the get-go is what is cloud gaming? How is this different to everything we have? And although people like to talk about gaming as it's always been a digital business, it's a digital business that started out applying an analog business model, a retail business model. And, excuse me, over the last few years, we've seen that start to change and start to evolve. So now what we have is things like the subscription pack. Nobody had ever really done stuff like that before. They weren't able to bundle a whole pile of content from across the board and deliver a streamed subscription pack. And here we are with the opportunity to do that. And that's something I think we want to really evolve. We want to see different types of subscription packs. We want different partners maybe to be able to have different offerings. And so we start to tune and tweak that, and tweak that as a business is going to become very, very key to what streaming is as we go forward. And I think the idea that someone would pay a retail price for virtual goods, that's something that naturally has to change as well. And if you've been following the press in the last few weeks, there's a lot of the same argument over why is a digital ebook the same price as a hardcover, right? And it's a perfectly valid argument. It's not the same tangible product. So at what point am I paying? What point am I getting something back for the convenience?
Okay. with the issues that you as a company has had over the last few weeks, do you think this time last year, obviously you launched in the UK here at the Eurogamer Expo, and you gave away a large amount of home consoles. I myself got one as well, which I still use, to be perfectly honest.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Do you think that will have had any negative impact on any financial figures, giving away so many free units?
One of the things to look at is, as a small company, we were trying to get the brand out there. Anytime you're trying to build a brand comes with a marketing cost. And whether it's giving away a console, or whether it's running a TV advert, or whether it's doing a radio spot, all of those are marketing costs, and they're part of customer acquisition. If you don't do that, and if you don't get your name and your brand out there, then nobody's going to hear about you anyway. So what we did at Eurogamer, and what we'd previously done at a couple of the exhibitions in the US, was very, very successful for building up the recognition of what OnLive was. At the same time, it was very expensive. It wasn't ultimately what caused it, but it was one of the things that it sort of highlights how difficult it is to build a new brand and build a new technology from the ground up. Startups have a lot to do, and they're coming from nothing. And you're developing stuff, you're doing engineering, you're doing operations, working with all the partners, you're also marketing, and you're spending money in so many different places. And obviously as a startup, you're often doing that before you've even made revenue, or you're even making a profit. So it's constantly this burn that you have to deal with in the background. And ultimately all of those things came to a head with OnLive.
Okay. How would you address, there's quite a lot of concerns in regards to using the OnLive service. I mean, people are happy to use the online service, but obviously they're going to, and they do compare it to services such as Steam. Whereas with Steam you have, the offline mode, and you have the ability to install the games to a hard drive, whereas a lot of people have concerns that if they purchase a game for £40, $50, whatever it is, on OnLive, and anything were to happen to the service or the server, they don't have anything back for their money. How would you address concerns like that?
I think it's a valid concern, and I think the one thing to recognise is when we went through all of this, the one thing that didn't stop was the operating of OnLive. It was very key that in the background we had a lot of operations staff and a lot of customer support staff, and everyone maintained the service and made sure that the one thing that didn't stop through what was a very, very painful transition internally was keeping people's ability to play games, keep the service up and running, make sure none of that was lost. Going forward though, I think one of the things that we'll also start to see is as the business model shifts, and as we see new ways of bringing this out, people's perception will shift as to what cloud gaming is. So as someone who has a large high-end gaming PC, I used to build those for a living, I also build them personally, I still care about very high-end computing. So I install my games to that, but at the same time, what OnLive gives me is a convenience that doesn't exist with that. I don't have to maintain drivers, I don't have to deal with installs or anything. And when I look at the subscription pack, what I've also got is I've got a casual, recurring way of dipping in and out of games without even thinking about it. I can just try things. If I'm not wanting to play that game, I'll go try something else. And I think that's one of the things that we'll see. Think of, rather than we get caught up right now because we're all very focused gamers, we get caught up in this, I want to own that one product. Think of OnLive as the ability to start bringing gaming channels. And so then you think of it like Netflix or Hulu, Love Film, Spotify, right? All of those types of products that just stream you product. And that's what we can be. We can be just a delivery mechanism for all of this different content. And that takes away from the, am I paying £40 for a title, and moves you into the, I'm paying a subscription for a bundle of service. And I think that's where the business and the compelling models really come from.
Excellent. And finally, what does the future hold for the OnLive brand? Where are you planning to go with it?
More. I think one of the things that, having come through this transition, we're in a much better shape to take everything we've learned. We've got 4 years head start in this space. We know how to build this, we know how to bring games in, we know how to build a software platform. deliver them out to the consumers. Now what we're going to see is a lot more partnerships. We're going to be working with TV manufacturers, we're going to be working with set-top box manufacturers. We're hoping to deliver on the Ouya as that comes out. So all of these different devices that you're going to start to see OnLive appear on. And really it's going to be a key focus for us is partnerships and working with others to bring OnLive and bring cloud games in whatever form to the consumer as is right for the consumer.
Excellent stuff. Lastly, any upcoming titles that you could reveal for the OnLive service?
I can't, and the only reason for that is because I've been so caught up in the last few days, I can't actually remember the title pipeline. And I know we have a title pipeline of about 15 games right now, so you're going to start to see some new titles coming on very quickly. We're also working with publishers, new and old. We're reaching out, we're opening up with new publishers, so you're going to see a whole load of new stuff coming on.
Excellent stuff. Well,
I'm excited about the future.
Yeah, so are we. Thank you very much for the interview today. It's been very insightful, thank you.
Okay.
Cheers.
And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. With the doors closing on the Eurogamer Expo, make sure to check out our exclusive reviews, previews and interviews only on slimgamer.com.